At Revenge World, we can usually tell when a story begins with something small that was meant to make a person feel smaller. This one started at a set of glass doors that never opened. Nora Blake works in distressed debt and asset control, the kind of work where you stay calm while everyone else panics. What mattered here wasn't her job title. It was the familiar feeling of being treated like a function instead of a daughter. Here's where she begins. The guard stepped into my path before my hand even touched the handle. "Ma'am," he murmured, eyes flicking to a clipboard. "The bride has you listed for the service entrance. Around back." I stared at him for a beat. "I'm family." He kept his voice polite, like that changed anything. "It's a private event." The instructions are specific. Behind him, the lobby glowed warm and soft. Inside, people in black tie moved like they belonged there. I followed his gesture to the side alley where delivery vans idled and the air smelled like wet cardboard and citrus cleaner. I lifted my chin and looked up at the terrace. My father stood near the railing, jacket unbuttoned, watching like this was theater. My mother had a wine glass in her hand. She saw me. She actually saw me. Her mouth tightened, just slightly. Then she turned her shoulder and faced the room. We noticed how quickly the room decided who Nora was allowed to be. I didn't wave. I didn't call out. I took the gravel path toward the loading dock, my shoes clicking too loud, my invitation still warm in my clutch like a joke no one bothered to laugh at. If this hits close, share a line in the comments. The service hallway smelled like bleach and hot metal. My heel slipped once on the polished concrete, and I steadied myself against the wall before anyone could notice. The kitchen was loud when I pushed through the swinging doors. Pans clanged. Someone shouted an order. Steam rolled past my face. Then it stopped, not all at once, one station at a time. A head turning, a hand freezing mid-air. A man in a dark vest stepped forward, eyes already tight with recognition. "Nora," he whispered, low and urgent. "This isn't okay. If you want this ended, I can do it now." I shook my head. "Not yet." He swallowed. "They don't know." "I know." He glanced toward the doors that led back to the ballroom. "They crossed a line bringing you through here. They haven't finished." For a second, he looked like he wanted to argue. Then he nodded and stepped aside, barking orders louder than before to bring the room back to life. We felt the shift there, the moment when restraint chose its place. I walked past the prep tables, past the lockers, and stopped near the office door. My hands were steady. That surprised me. The garment bag was hanging on a hook by the lockers, exactly where it had been left for me. Plain, black, no name stitched anywhere. I pulled the zipper down and felt the fabric between my fingers. Thin, scratchy, the kind that holds creases whether you want it to or not. 3 weeks earlier, Sienna's voice had come through my phone, bright and casual. "Black tie's going to be a lot," she'd said. "This just makes things easier for everyone." I'd asked. Easier for who she laughed. "Don't make it weird." I didn't answer then. I just listened to her breathe on the line until she filled the silence herself. Back in the locker room, a woman I didn't recognize glanced over while tying her hair back. "You working tonight for a bit?" I told her. She nodded, already done with the exchange. I stepped into the bathroom stall and changed. The shirt pulled tight across my shoulders. The pants were a little short. I stared at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the version looking back. For a moment, my throat closed. Just for a moment. We noticed how long she stood there before moving. I pinned the badge on event staff. No name, no correction. When I walked out, the hallway felt narrower. The music from the ballroom drifted through the walls, muffled but steady. I took a breath and picked up a tray from the counter. The ballroom opened up all at once, light and noise rushing in like I'd stepped into a different building. A man at the bar glanced at my tray and lifted 2 fingers. Champagne. I passed him a glass. He didn't look up again. People moved in clusters, laughing, touching arms, leaning close. Dresses brushed my sleeves as I walked the perimeter. Someone pressed a folded napkin into my hand without breaking her conversation. Near the center, Sienna stood with her back straight, shoulders bare, smiling like this night belonged to her. My parents flanked her. My father scanned the room. My mother adjusted a centerpiece. I slowed when I reached their table. My mother's eyes flicked to the badge on my chest. Event staff. Her lips parted, then closed. "Could you straighten that chair?" she murmured, already turning away. "It's blocking the aisle." I shifted the chair an inch, maybe two. She nodded once. Satisfied. We noticed how easily the request landed, how ordinary it sounded. I stepped back into motion, tray balanced, spine tight. The music swelled, glasses clinked. As I turned, Sienna's gaze caught mine across the room. Her smile didn't fade. It sharpened. I kept walking, the edge of the ballroom guiding me forward, waiting for whatever came next. The tray felt heavier by the time I reached the side table. I set it down and flexed my fingers once, just enough to keep them loose. 3 years ago, I'd stood in my parents' kitchen with an envelope in my hand. "I just need $8,000, I'd said. 2 months. I'll pay it back. My father hadn't looked up from the paper. "You need to learn how to handle setbacks." My mother's voice had been softer. It wouldn't be healthy to depend on us. 2 weeks later, Sienna had called, breathless and excited. "They're helping me out," she'd said. $4,000 a month. It's for connections. You get it." I'd stood there with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to her list restaurants and parties like it was a job description. We remember how quiet the room felt after that call ended. A guest brushed past me now, laughing too loud. I picked the tray back up and stepped aside, the numbers lining up in my head without effort, settling into their usual place. Across the room, Sienna lifted her glass and caught my eye again. Her fingers tapped once against the stem. Not a wave, a signal. I turned toward her, steady, already moving. Sienna didn't raise her voice. She never had to. She lifted her glass and tapped it once against the table. Staff. Her smile stayed fixed. Champagne. From the reserve case, the one with the green label. I stepped closer, tray balanced against my hip. Of course. She leaned in, close enough that her perfume cut through the smell of wine and flowers. Her hand closed around my wrist, fingers tight, nails pressing just enough to register. "Don't shake," she murmured. "It makes people nervous." I looked down at where she was holding me. Pale knuckles, a faint red mark already forming on my skin. Around us, conversation kept going. Someone laughed. A chair scraped softly across the floor, but a woman at the next table paused, eyes flicking from Sienna's hand to my face. A man nearby shifted his weight, suddenly interested. My mother appeared at my shoulder, voice low and efficient. After that, "Could you bring 2 more chairs over here? Helena's table feels crowded." I nodded once. "I'll take care of it." Sienna released me and straightened, the smile snapping back into place as if nothing had happened. "Try not to be slow." We noticed how many people were watching without meaning to. I turned away before my body could react on its own. My wrist throbbed, not badly, just enough to stay present. I didn't head toward the bar. I didn't reach for the chairs. I walked past the edge of the ballroom, through the service corridor, and toward the door marked administrative. My hand didn't hesitate when I reached for the handle. The administrative office was quiet in a way the rest of the building wasn't. No music, no voices bleeding through the walls, just the low hum of a printer and the click of the door as it shut behind me. Ethan was already there. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't tell me to sit. He looked at my wrist instead. "That shouldn't have happened," he said. "Not here." It did. He exhaled through his nose and turned the monitor toward me. The event dashboard glowed soft blue. Timelines, controls, notes stacked in neat rows. "If we move forward," he said carefully, "it becomes very public." "I know." He hesitated. You're certain? I nodded. They were warned. Not tonight. Not ever. He rested his hands on the desk, steadying himself. The vineyard's valuation came back last quarter. $32 million. The senior note still controls everything that matters. I remember. You put just under $1 million of your own capital into that purchase, he continued. The rest came from the group, and they trusted me to manage it. They did. He paused. This ends the event. It doesn't end the family. I didn't answer right away. I watched the small red mark on my wrist darken at the edges. It didn't hurt anymore. That part was already over. We noticed how still the room felt, like a decision had already been made somewhere deeper. Fade the music, I said. Bring the house lights to full. Ethan's fingers hovered above the controls. Once I do this, there's no soft landing. There doesn't need to be. He pressed the first button. The music level dropped a notch. Then another. Through the wall. I could feel the shift. Not silence yet. Just confusion. Ethan looked at me one last time. Ready. I reached up and unpinned the badge from my chest. Event staff. The pin left a small hole in the fabric. I set it on the desk. Now. The music didn't stop all at once. It thinned, like someone slowly pulling air out of a room. A few heads turned. Laughter stumbled, then picked itself up again. Then the lights came on. Not the soft amber glow, not the flattering wash. Full house lights. Bright, flat, honest. People blinked. Someone lifted a hand to shield their eyes. Glassware stopped mid-clink. Sienna's voice cut through first. What's happening? She scanned the room, sharp and fast. Why did the music stop? Ethan stepped out from the side corridor. Posture straight. The event is paused, he said evenly. Service has been suspended. My father moved toward me, face already tight. Nora, this isn't funny. Fix it. I stepped forward before my body could talk me out of it. It's not a glitch. Sienna turned fully then, eyes landing on my shirt, my bare collar where the badge used to be. What are you doing? Her laugh came out thin. Get back to the bar. This ends now, I said, loud enough to carry without shouting. This event is terminated for violation of staff safety and conduct terms. A ripple moved through the room. Phones appeared, lifted without anyone meaning to. My mother took a step back. Nora, please. They signed the agreement. Ethan added, all parties did. Sienna shook her head. Disbelief tipping into anger. You don't get to do this. I do. I said. Here. I held my wrist up. The mark hadn't faded. We noticed how quiet the room went when proof stopped being abstract. Someone near the back whispered my name. Sienna's breath hitched. You're ruining everything. I didn't answer that. I didn't need to. Security moved in, calm and practiced. Chairs scraped. A glass tipped and rolled, unbroken, across the floor. I stood there until the noise found its level again, then turned back toward the corridor. The lights stayed on behind me. The cafe was quiet in the late afternoon. The kind of quiet that doesn't ask anything from you. I sat by the window with my laptop open. The ocean stretched out beyond the glass like it had nowhere else to be. The paperwork was simple, clean. I signed where the cursor blinked, transferred my position, closed the file. When it was done, it was done. No rush of relief. Just a steady feeling, like setting something down after carrying it too long. My phone buzzed once on the table. Mom. I turned the screen face down without opening it. Not out of anger, just certainty. A server passed and nodded. Anything else, I'm good, I said, and I meant it. I watched a couple walk past outside, arguing softly, then laughing, life doing what it does, moving on without asking permission. For a long time, I'd believed staying meant trying harder, explaining better, being smaller. That night changed something I didn't know could change. I stopped measuring myself by whether I was allowed in the room. Nora Blake didn't lose a family that night. She lost the job of holding one together by herself. I closed the laptop and wrapped my hands around the mug, letting it cool where it wanted to. If this story stayed with you, you can sit with it for a moment longer. We stayed quiet at the end, listening to how calmly she said goodbye to them, and to the version of herself that kept waiting.